Have you ever wanted to start your own business but can't seem to find the time with your current job? That's exactly how I felt last year there until I started my own thing. So I've personally found a fantastic business, and there's many others like this business that will give you actually the flexibility in the free time to actually fund the thing that you actually want to do. So in my case, I actually started a pressure washing business. By me starting my pressure washing company, it actually gave me a lot of opportunities and freedom of time to do other things that I want to do. YouTube being one of them, and creating a channel that's, all around entrepreneurship and different careers is something that I really want to do. So having this pressure washing business and similar types of businesses actually gives me a lot of freedom of time while still being able to pay the bills from day to day. The question that I always asked myself was, how do people get the time to actually pursue these passion projects or whatever you want to call them, things that they really want to do, but then yet they're still working their 9-to-5 job, and yes, there's definitely a lot of cases, and I think at the end of the day, it really does come down to hard work, whether you're willing to build a business in pressure washing or other home services, or if you want to just keep your 9-to-5 job, and then in the evenings and the weekends, that's where you kind of hustle and grind on whatever other project that you're trying to ultimately work towards. Either way, you're gonna have to put in a lot of work, and it's gonna be hard regardless, but luckily for me, I put in the work for this pressure washing business, and that was something that I really wanted to do regardless. I wouldn't necessarily say that pressure washing is my absolute passion, but it provided me the means to do something that I actually really want to do. So the main thing about pressure washing that I really liked was that when you do the service, you get paid immediately right after. And the nice thing is that sometimes there's definitely jobs that are lower paying jobs that, might only make you $250 or $300, but in the grand scheme of things, if you had to work 1 hour or maybe let's say 3 hours and you make $300, that's still awesome money. A similar really cool thing opposed to maybe these lower $300 jobs is that some of these jobs can actually be really big ticket items. If you get into the work of maybe commercial pressure washing, where you're doing, big apartment buildings or townhouse complexes, sometimes you can make, upwards of 10 or even I've heard of, $20,000. My biggest job is probably around $12,000, and that $12,000 job didn't take me a crazy amount of time, but I was able to complete it within the week, but that's also because I had the equipment that I needed to get those certain jobs done. So again, to kind of get into it, there's 3 big reasons why I really like these home service style businesses. Number 1 would be that they're fairly simple to start. I know a lot of people make videos about these, but they are fairly simple to start, but I would also warn you in the fact that they're very simple to start, but they're sometimes not always very simple to do really well in. So once you start getting down the rabbit trail of, say, pressure washing, you start realizing that you can actually really mess up someone's property with using certain chemicals on different materials, like for example, letting bleach or SH, sodium hypochlorite, which is the main chemical that a lot of businesses use. If you let that dry on windows or metal or something like that, you can actually really completely wreck that material. But for step number 1, as far as pressure washing goes, I just want to give you a kind of a general quick overview of a couple things that you can get to get started. And this would actually help you, do some smaller jobs, but you don't need to tackle on the big commercial ones right away. So some of the things and equipment that you need would say be a 4 gallon a minute Honda GX390 pressure washer. That's a really good pressure washer that a lot of people, almost everyone it seems like, uses to get started. This is really portable, so it'll allow you to kind of wheel it around as long as you hook it up to a water source, and most residential properties can actually handle the flow of 4 gallons a minute, but you're definitely gonna have to check with properties, but I wouldn't get too worried about that. Next is you just get some 4 gallon a minute pressure washing tips. You can go to your local store, you can ask them, they can kind of give you all the information, and you can also just search on YouTube all the information about those specific tips as well. But really, you just kind of want to get a J-rod tip that's specific to 4 gallon a minute, and then you can start downstreaming and X-jetting and all that stuff. The next piece of equipment that you'd want is just the pressure washing gun and the wand itself. Next is, I would say, is an X-Jet. It's a really cool piece of equipment and tool to have in your arsenal because it allows you to actually apply stronger concentrations of your chemicals. So you can do more jobs. You can do kind of almost pretty much any job using an X-Jet. It might be slightly less effective than, say, a soft wash system, but you can absolutely do pretty much anything with an X-Jet, so I wouldn't worry about that at all. The last couple things you would need is just a garden hose, obviously some pressure washing hose, and then get some chemicals, right? So go to your local pressure washing store or exterior cleaning store, ask them about different soaps that they use, and then find out where you can maybe get some sodium hypochlorite or what other chemicals that you want to use. So number two, the reason why I like home service businesses is that they have really good margin. Like I was saying before, is that I liked it because you get paid right away and you can make a lot of money just right away by doing one job, going to a driveway, cleaning a driveway for $200 or $300, and then the homeowner will pay you right away. So typically, again, you have to kind of consult your local area, but I know that everyone asks about pricing, and I would say here's some general guidelines, but honestly, at the end of the day, you kind of just figure out what you're gonna charge using, say, Google Earth to map out the square footage of, say, a house or a driveway, and then you just multiply that by a certain amount. So typically for house washes, they can range anywhere from, say, 20 cents a square foot all the way up to, probably 30 or 35 cents. So it really depends. If you're looking at vinyl siding, then you're probably gonna be the lower, like 20, 25 cents or even 30 cents. It doesn't really matter. It kind of just depends of what you like to charge and how cheap or expensive you wanna go. Stucco, you're gonna charge a little bit more, and that's just because you're gonna have to use a higher concentration of chemicals. You won't be able to downstream stucco really because just of all the crevices and it's very porous and everything. So you're gonna need a higher concentration, which is where the X-Jet comes into. For concrete, you're typically around like 30 cents or 35 cents a square foot, but it really depends on how difficult the work will be for you and how dirty it is. But honestly, when you're starting out, just pick one of those numbers and just start charging accordingly. Sometimes you don't want to always go by square feet. If it's like a big area, but it's going to be fairly simple, then you may not want to always go by the square foot, and you may think of how much time that it'll take you. And the only way to find out how much time it's going to take you is just doing the first jobs. So maybe you end up losing out on some money, or I shouldn't even say that. Maybe you just don't make as much money as you could, but then you're just paying for the cost of education. So that's just part of the game in general. I would say for house washes, again, this is from a Canadian perspective, but I think it's very similar to the US, just in US dollars as well. A house wash is typically probably like $500 all the way up to like $700, and then when you start getting into even like bigger places with maybe different materials, or it's a little more complicated, you could probably even charge up to like $1,000 for that. But I would say if you're a general guideline, like $500-600 for a house wash, I would say that you're doing pretty well at that point. The last little point I just want to make about that is it's crazy to me that you can go out, clean a driveway for $300, or do a little bit of work at one homeowner's place, and you can charge $300 versus my wife was a teacher previously, and she would probably make, $280 during the day of a whole entire day's work. So it's pretty crazy the money that you can make. Not saying that there's not competition out there though. The third reason why I like home service businesses like pressure washing as an example is the high ticket items. I would say if you're doing a house wash and you charge $500 or $600 for 4 hours work or something like that to start, that's pretty good money initially. And then if you start getting into some of these commercial jobs, you may be charging like $10,000 or $7,000 if you're cleaning a bunch of concrete or whatever it may be. That's the nice thing about pressure washing, is sometimes you can get some pretty high ticket items. So everything that I just mentioned above, those were the 3 reasons why I liked home service businesses, but I only really mentioned pressure washing itself. But all these companies, they add in a lot of different services. So for example, they'll do gutter cleaning, they'll do window cleaning, leaf removal, or whatever it may be. So there's a lot of different things that you can do. Obviously you can do roof washing, and sometimes it's seasonal. So in the winter time, when it gets a little bit colder out, a lot of these companies are doing snow clearing, but most importantly, they're probably doing Christmas lights installation. So there's a lot of different add-ons that you can do. I would say that me personally, I never got into Christmas light installation or snow clearing. I didn't really want to be dealing with the insurance costs of snow plowing or anything like that, so I didn't get involved in that whatsoever. Now you're probably wondering, okay, great, maybe I've decided to do a home service business that'll help me support my other passions. Well, how do you get work? I got pretty lucky just with some of the connections that I have, and it was just basically just networking. It wasn't like I knew these people before, but it was just going out and actually talking to different business owners and people in different companies and just seeing if they need these services that you're gonna offer. So that's really the number one thing I would say, is just get out there, network, talk to people that you already know within your network, or if you know someone that knows someone, see if you can get some sort of introduction. I would say that's probably the best way to do it initially. Another way that you can do it, which is a lot more intimidating, would be door knocking. So door knocking, obviously very intimidating, but I would say you just follow, a couple guys on TikTok or YouTube and just research of how they kind of do it. Again, at the end of the day, I personally took the approach, if I was door knocking, I just kind of asked politely if they want these services. I really wasn't a seasoned door knocker salesman by any means, but I just mainly tried to respect people's boundaries and their property, and they don't really typically want people at their doors. But again, at the end of the day, that if you really believe in your product, then you're gonna want to actually sell it to those people. And at the end of the day too, a lot of these people that said no originally, they end up saying yes, and they're really happy for your service. So again, there's pros and cons to door knocking, and there's a lot of people that actually make a lot of money from doing that. Pretty much in conclusion, if anyone out there is interested in a job that they can do while they're in pursuit of maybe something else, and I'll call it like a passion project, then I think these home service type businesses are the way to go. I can definitely do more videos on them later, whether it's pressure washing or maybe like line striping, not really a home service, but there's also just purely window cleaning or painting or lawn care, landscaping. There's lots of different services. But the bottom line again is just that it allows you the freedom to actually have those days where you can work on something else. And I would say in a pretty good and reasonable expectation is that I think that you could easily make like around $50,000 or $60,000 in the year without working every single day. That's definitely doable. That's what I did in my first year. I was able to actually make a really good income, and I had a lot of free time as well. So this year, that's exactly what I'm doing again. I'm going to be pursuing a lot more content creation around entrepreneurship and different careers out there to help guide people. But I think that this is a really cool business that someone could start, and I'm happy to do a video about kind of how to start, say, a pressure washing business in a little bit more detail if people are interested in it. So if you did find this video helpful, feel free to ask any questions in the comment section, and I'd be happy to answer them the best that I can. Anyways, good luck in your journey, and I hope that this video helps, or at least gives you some idea and direction of where you maybe could go and would like to go. Thanks.